displayed on the screen. It's awesome when all of the people live together in unity. When waters grow up, we hold each other tightly. When the sea begins to swallow us, we hold each other tightly and call on God. But we also need God and each other when there are no looming waves. We can splash and play in the shallow end and venture into the deeper waters with trusted friends, delighting in refreshing currents of community and savoring each burst of laughter. Let's invite others to join in the fun. And now, let us together read the UCC statement. United in spirit and inspired by God's grace, we welcome all, love all, and seek justice for all.
Good morning. Buenos días. The reading today from Psalm 9, verses 9 to 20. The Lord is a stronghold for the oppressed, a stronghold in times of trouble. And those who know your name put their trust in you. For you, O Lord, have not forsaken those who seek you. Sing praises to the Lord, who dwells in Zion. Declare his deeds among the peoples. For he who avenges blood is mindful of them. He does not forget the cry of the afflicted. Be gracious to me, O Lord. See what I suffer from those who hate me. You are the one who lifts me up from the gates of death, so that I might recount all your praises, and in the gates of daughter Zion rejoice in your deliverance. The nations have sunk in the pit that they made. In the net that they hid has their own foot been caught. The Lord has made himself known. He has executed judgment. The wicked are snared in the work of their own hands. Hayom Selah. The wicked shall depart to Sheol, all the nations that forget God. For the needy shall not always be forgotten, nor the hope of the poor perish forever. Rise up, O Lord. Do not let mortals prevail. Let the nations be judged before you. Put them in fear, O Lord. Let the nations know that they are only human. Selah.
Gospel reading today is Mark 4, 35 to 41. Please stand. On that day, when evening had come, he said to them, "Let us go across to the other side." And leaving the crowd behind, they took him with them in the boat, just as he was. Other boats were with him. A great windstorm arose, and the waves beat into the boat, and the boat was already being swamped. But he was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him, and they said to him, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" He woke up and rebuked the wind and said to the sea, "Peace, be still." Then the wind ceased, and there was a dead calm. He said to them, "Why are you afraid? Have you still no faith?" And they were filled with great awe and said to one another, "Who then is this that even the wind and the sea obey him?" This is the word of God for the people of God.
Good morning. It's nice to be back in church and have the most of my voice back. But actually, now when I sing, I sound like Louis Armstrong. I see trees of green, and I think to myself, what a wonderful world. It is a wonderful world. It's wonderful to be here today, and I'm thankful for that. From the Gospel of Mark, we hear Jesus' own words, and I love that. He says, the Lord is a stronghold for the oppressed, a stronghold in times of trouble. I prayed about that. That one sentence of that passage just reached out to me, and I couldn't let go of it. And my first impression was, oh, another sermon about the oppressed. Which oppressed do we pick this morning? But the Spirit guided me backwards to the word stronghold. Stronghold. How do we do that? How do we be the stronghold that Jesus is talking about? I was at the Higgins Chorus concert last night, and the MC talked about a lady called Shirley Anita Chisholm. And she's African-American woman. She was a politician, an educator, and an author. But in 1968, she became the first black woman elected to the United States Congress. And she represented New York. And for 7 terms she did that. That's a stronghold. A woman with so much faith like that. And they had 2 quotes that I actually had to write down that she had said. Shirley said, the emotional, sexual, and psychological stereotyping of females begins when the doctor says it's a girl. Powerful statement. My favorite saying of hers is this, though. If they don't give you a seat at the table, if they don't give you a seat at the table, she says, bring a folding chair. And I love that. She brought a folding chair. She sat at the table in Congress because she was a stronghold that the Lord talked about. Isn't that amazing? How powerful of a passage that I can share with us today. But how do we do it? Is it just for special people? Not at all. It's for each one of us to be a stronghold. As a Christian, as a believer in Christ. So today, we're going to talk about ordinary time. Because it's the liturgical season. Now, when I grew up in church, I went to a little church in the country. We didn't have liturgical seasons. We didn't have Advent and Lent and Pentecost. Isn't that the church down the street that would get really loud? We didn't have all that. The preacher just came to church and he picked a passage and preached about it. There were no seasons. But once I grew in my faith and exposed to more faith communities, I learned about these seasons that we can go through liturgically as a church. The season of Lent and Advent, they're my favorite because they're journeys of deep reflection. It's where we become closer to God. And I like that. But just 2 weeks ago, we entered the season of ordinary time. And I just asked all my scholar friends, why is it so ordinary? I don't like that word. Ordinary to me means plain. You know, nothing exciting about it. A rerun on TV. But ordinary. But we're in ordinary time. And ordinary time in the liturgical calendar actually lasts for 33 to 34 weeks. So it's 65% of our time we're in ordinary time. That's a long time, isn't it? But in today's gospel, we find the disciples of Jesus and they're out on a boat. Probably fishing or going from this town to that town. They're in ordinary time, aren't they? They're just doing the day-to-day things that we do. But in that ordinary time, what happened? A storm came. The waters were tossing the boat around and the disciples became afraid. And what's Jesus doing? He's leaving, taking them out. They get so scared and they were so afraid. But this morning when I woke up, I thought about it. This here, this place is our boat. We are the disciples in the boat. And around us is a storm. And I'm not talking political parties, whatever your stance is to me this morning doesn't matter to this passage because we're afraid. We're afraid that we might be wrong or they may be right, or we're afraid of all the things going on in our country. We're afraid of, am I going to upset you when I tell you my views of how I feel about what's going on? We're afraid to even talk with one another. We're living in fear. And even with this, in this church, you can feel it just tossing about. And what does Jesus say? Jesus says, peace, be still. And I talked to Simone before church today, and I said, somebody left out a comma. Because I believe he said, peace, comma, be still. Peace, be still. So in the midst of this turmoil, when I thought about who could help us through that, who could help us navigate through the storm, who could help us to release our fear, who could help us see through the stormy weather and through the fog and see the light at the end of it. And when I prayed about it, it was Dr. Simone. That's a lot of pressure, isn't it? No pressure at all. But I have faith in her and her message. Because she lives the light. She lives the light. So would you share with us how to be the stronghold that Jesus talks about in this ordinary time? And what's so ordinary about this time? Thank you. Dr. Simone.
Thank you. And Reverend Patrick contacted me about speaking today, and when I first started reading through, I was like, ordinary time, what am I going to say about ordinary time? He's like, tell me if you're comfortable. I'm like, no. And I was like, wait. And I kept reading, and then I stopped just reading, and I started feeling. And as I was reading and feeling, I was like, wait a second. First of all, ordinary time. Ordinary. I said, let me look up the definition of ordinary. Normal. I said, if it can be normal, then it can be natural. And if it can be natural, then it can be a time when we're naturally expected to lean on God, when we're naturally expected to cultivate that relationship. So maybe ordinary didn't mean ordinary, but meant this is our everyday moments, our living and breathing of God, of Jesus' word. So it occurred to me, and then I went ahead and did more research, and I found a language historian. Did you know there was something called a language historian? I did not. And they talked about how the meaning of words change over time, and I think silly used to mean like royal and worthy, and now it means just like silly and goofy, and talked about how the meaning of words change. So I invite us first, as we start talking here, to consider that ordinary time is more about a natural, normal state of being, a normal, expected connection with God. And so when I went there, I said, before I even get even deeper, I want to ask you, if I stood up here today and just said some horrible, mean words, how long do you think you would hold on to that? Forever. I mean, just weeks and months. Do you remember when Dr. Simone got up there? And you would hold it forever. So I'm inviting you today that as I share with you wonderful words, hopeful words, uplifting, fact-based, truthful words, that you hold on to them just as long, if not longer. Do you promise? Yeah. Thank you. All right, so I realized that the major seasons, we've got Easter and Christmas and all these things, and I'm like, okay, so we've got normal time before we get there. So what is this normal time about? What is this natural state? And I said, perhaps it's our preparing It's our time to prepare for these major seasons. It's time to connect to who we are, to connect to God, to connect to hope and possibility. Now I know there are things happening in our world, things that are very difficult to just overlook. I'm not asking you to overlook them. I'm asking that when you see fire, you don't strike a match and add fire. I'm asking that you don't grab the gasoline and make it bigger. I'm asking that you don't feed it with constant comments and fueling and making it popular and making it the number one focus of our lives. I'm asking that you observe the fire at a safe distance and start to cultivate ways that we can put the fire out. And sometimes that's not a leap into action like Superman and do something, but sometimes it's prayer. Because our word, we either believe or we don't believe. Sometimes you want to say, I believe a little, and I'm like, nope, you're either pregnant or you're not pregnant. You're just not halfway there. And my kids answer, of course. So we believe or we don't believe. So do we have power in our word? Yes or no? Is there power in prayer? Yes or no? So then when we see this fire, we need to let our words be the water. We need to let our attention be in the right direction. We need to use ordinary time to grow, to cultivate, to become stronger in our faith. And although we look around and these things happening around us seem all but ordinary, our power still remains. And the truth of the matter is, if we take measure, there's still more good happening in this world than bad. Doesn't mean the bad is not quite horrible and takes up quite a bit of our attention. I'm not naive to that. But there's still quite a bit of good going on in this world. If we feed that, nurture that, if that gets 20,000 likes on Facebook, then we know that we're flowing our energy in the right direction. That we are now walking that place where Jesus asked us, peace. Be still. I talked to a guy one time, many, many years ago, and he said, he was doing a sermon, and he said, I named it, Chill Out, God's Got It. And I was like, God's got it. I like it. So I offer that to you today. God's got it. And I'm not asking here not to be upset, not to be in pain, not to feel something. Feel. I'm not telling you to deny emotions. Feel them, get upset. But be careful how much we feed them. A lot of amazing things happen in ordinary time. Caterpillars who are crawling around on the ground for most of their lives go into a cocoon, they're still, some other stuff happens, and they become butterflies. This is happening in ordinary time. The ocean, we have the sun warming it, little water vapors go up, form clouds are traveling across, we get rain. That's happening in ordinary time. I think we've gotten so used to the miracles. I think we've gotten so used to how divine things are that we forget to pay attention to them. We forget, well, wow, a life was formed in a womb, and then it became a person, and then it grew arms and legs, and it got bigger, and it got older, and it learned, and things are happening. So many wonderful, magical, amazing things, but we've gotten so used to them. A seed. I can't see anything in this seed. I don't see a map. I don't see fruits. I don't see anything. I just see a little seed. You plop it in the ground, you add the dirt and the water, all of a sudden it has leaves that you cannot count, branches, fruits that feed people, a trunk so thick and big and strong you cannot push it over with your bare hands. And that started from a seed that bloomed in ordinary time. So in our ordinary time, our job is to nurture ourselves and each other. Our job is to feed and grow and become. Our job is to choose our focus. In many ways, and I love you all very much, but in many, many, many ways, we've become zombies. We just take in the news that's given to us, we feel very negative about it, we take in some more of the news, we talk about it, we take in some more about it, we talk about it, and what have we done to the process of healing? What have we contributed? I want you to recognize this magical stuff that's happening. I want you to recognize, and I want us to start becoming deliberate and intentional about recognizing some of the other stuff that's happening around us. Let's be intentional about throwing the water on the fire. When Jesus was in the boat, taking a nap, while all these things were going on, the people questioned him, "Do you not care?" And he said, "Hey, what happened to your faith?" And so we have to be careful not to judge each other because we do the same thing. You know, somebody comes to me and it's like, "So Mom, did you hear this? Did you hear that? Did you read the fine print?" I'm like, "No, I didn't know that happened." And in that moment, I feel like they would say to me, "Do you not care?" And I compare myself to Jesus because I think we should all be comparing ourselves to Jesus because the purpose is for us to be like him. He was our teacher and our example. So I'm not afraid to tell you that I'm aspiring to be as close to him and to take his teachings to heart and to walk as good as I can in those footsteps and in the lessons. Am I perfecting it? Sometimes. Sometimes no. Sometimes. But I keep going. So sometimes I may not know all the details, but it's because I'm not digging through the fire to find out what started. I am adding as much water and as much love as I can, and I'm trying to put around us a protection that can stop other fires from happening, but I am not jumping in because me burned in the fire helps no one. I am not in a position to help if I have let the fire destroy me. And if I've gotten so close that now I'm on fire and anyone with whom I get close proximity, I'm spreading the fire, well now I'm a part of the problem. I'm not standing here and telling you this is easy. I'm not telling you, oh, just ignore it. I'm not. I know what we're talking about is heavy, heavy stuff. But so is prayer. So is faith. That's heavy, heavy stuff. And all of that we have access to in this ordinary time. Doesn't feel so ordinary anymore, does it? So I'm going to share with you one of the tools that I use to help me stay connected. And by one tool, I mean these 3 books. These are my journals. The actual journals that I will sit and write in. I don't necessarily recommend that you have to have 3 or whatnot, but I like to explore. I like to see what works for me. I like to see what helps me to deepen that connection, what helps me to utilize my ordinary time so I'm prepared. When Christmas comes, I don't want to just be prepared financially to buy tons of gifts. When Easter comes, I don't want to just be prepared with the cute little bunny ears and tons of candy in the backyard. When these major seasons come, I want to be prepared because I am the fullness of me, and I have appreciated what God has done and what He's doing, and I appreciate that part of me that is representative of God. I appreciate the part of me that was born with the right, my birthright, to walk in the footsteps of Jesus and try as hard as I can to emulate and let Him be the successful teacher He came here to be. That is my job. And in ordinary time is where I work on me. I keep coming back to the idea that I'm not emphasizing perfection here. I stand in front of you as a teacher as well, and also a student. I make my own mistakes. I get lost sometimes in the fire, but I think the recognition of the power we have to step away from that and to make a difference is what is at the fundamental core of our power. And so in these journals is my daily effort to connect. And I'm going to take you through my personal life here. So, prayer journal. In here, I write my gratitude lists. Just going on and on. Thank you for my child, my children. Thank you for Shaylee. Thank you for Shane. Thank you for Sean. Thank you for my mom. Thank you for this. Thank you for the rain. Thank you for anything. Thank you for the new earrings. Thank you for the gas in the car. Whatever it is. There's nothing too big or too small to thank God for. So I go through here and I write lists of appreciation because it's very hard to be sad, depressed, angry, bitter, resentful when you are filling your mind with the things that are truthfully there to be grateful for. I'm not talking about pretending. I'm not talking about looking at a horrible situation and saying, well, that's great. No. I'm talking about looking at a horrible situation and saying, you know what, from that, From those ashes, I can do this. From that tragedy, we can do that. I bet you we will learn. I know that we're getting more aware. Because of that, this is going to happen. Because of that, we're growing, we're learning. We will make more careful decisions in the future about things. We will be more cognizant. We will know where and how to direct our attention and to direct our power. So this is my list where I put all things that I'm grateful for and that I appreciate and I'm thankful for. Blessing. This book is called Faith Makes All Things Possible. This one is where I take any topic that I think of. It could be something that's actually bothering me, or it could be something that I feel great about. Depends on what the need is that day. And I write the name across the top, and then I start to list all of the positive aspects I can think of about that topic. So if I'm really happy about, had a great sermon today, and I write today's sermon, and then I write a list. Amazing people, everyone said hi, everyone gave me a hug and kiss, which you did, thank you. I had such a great feeling, I felt connected, I delivered the word, I prayed that God was flowing through me, I prayed they received, it felt amazing, I'm so grateful for the opportunity, love Reverend Patrick. And I write that just to bring me back to center, and deep appreciation for every moment that I'm living. Because sometimes we are living our best days as memories. Think about that. Some of the greatest things that have happened to us, we don't appreciate them in the moment. We're not there, we're not present. They're memories. We get wrapped back into it and tapped back into it. Oh, remember last week when this happened? But where were you last week when it was happening? Were you there? Were you present? Were you feeling it? Were you enjoying it? Were you basking in it? Were you alive in it? I don't want my best days to always be a memory. Remember when that? I want to be present first, then the memories are really juicy. And in my last book here, Write Your Story. I actually write my story. This is the book that if I accidentally left it here and you found it, you would probably try to get me committed. Because the talks with Oprah in here are real. The traveling across the world is real. The TV show, the movies, they get a superhero movie about me called The Self-Esteem Doctor, uniform, right? That's in this book, so do not try to find this. It is a very crazy book, but this is where I let my imagination run wild. This is where I say, if I was standing in true faith, in unwavering faith, if I really believed that God could give me anything that I desired, if I really believed in the limitless nature of this divine spiritual life, if I truly believed, what would I ask for? If I was actually walking in faith, if I didn't let any man, woman, or child, or thought, or idea, or belief stop me, if I was truly filled with the divine spirit, and the divine spirit is abundance in all things, and if I was going to have these abundant thoughts of what I could be, do, or have, what would it be? And in here, I feel like I'm the most faithful that I've ever been when I let myself let go and dream like a child. Ordinary time. This is what you can do in ordinary time. And remember that self-care is spiritual care, because we're one. Love on yourself, thank God for everything, and feed each other. And as these fires come, which they will, let's commit to putting them out, learning from it, and being the best spiritual, faith-based people that we can possibly be. Thank you, church.
From the song we read this morning and heard, the Lord is a stronghold for us. And those who know your name put their trust in you, he says. You are the one who lifts me up. God is the one who lifts me up. Will you say that with me? God is the one who lifts me up. Amen.
The I hope you were touched today by God's love and grace while viewing our worship service, and we hope to see you in person one day. We at the United Church of Christ, Fort Lauderdale, are an open and affirming church that believes in equality for all. We have many ministries that reach out to the needs of those in our community, and there's always something here for everyone to be involved in. We believe that God is still speaking and that our ministry outreach can only continue its vital mission in bringing people to Christ through the support of people just like you. Please visit our website, uccftl.org, for more information about us, to submit a prayer request, or even donate to the church if you have been moved by the Spirit. You will help us in God's work in our ministry outreach. We look forward to hearing from you soon, and we hope to see you next week. May God's peace and love be with each and every one of you. And remember, God is still speaking.